October 19th, 2023, 21:47 local time, the Red Sea, approximately 100 nautical miles northwest of the Yemeni coastline. The USS Carney, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer displacing 1,900 tons of American naval engineering, is running at combat speed through 8-foot swells. Her crew of 281 sailors is already at general quarters. Her radar arrays are painting the sky. And then, one by one, contacts appear on the display. Small, slow, low-flying, not jets, not ballistic missiles, drones, 19 of them, alongside 4 cruise missiles. The Carney engages. She destroys every single contact. The intercept is perfect. The mission is successful. And the bill, when the accountants later run the numbers, is approximately $4.3 million. The drones cost their operators roughly $20,000 each. Why does the most advanced Navy on Earth need $4.3 million to stop what a Yemeni militia purchased for the price of a used car lot? Let that question sit for a moment, because the discomfort it creates is precisely the point. The USS Carney did not fail that night. She performed exactly as designed. Her Standard Missile-2 interceptors tracked, calculated, and destroyed every threat placed in front of her with a probability of kill that most air forces in the world cannot match from a land-based battery, let alone a ship moving through heavy swells in contested water. The intercept geometry was clean, the crew was sharp, the doctrine held, and yet the math underneath that perfect engagement is a slow catastrophe written in dollars. A Standard Missile 2 Block 2 IA costs between $400,000 and $2.1 million per round, depending on the variant and the year of procurement contract. The drones that forced those expenditures were assembled in workshops in Sana'a for somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000 per unit. Some estimates place the cost even lower when components are sourced through Iranian procurement channels via proxy networks. The exchange ratio, the cold financial arithmetic of modern naval warfare, runs approximately 20 to 1. For every dollar the Houthis spent that night, America spent 20. Sit with that ratio, not as a political statement, as an engineering equation. The Carney did everything right, and the numbers still don't work in her favor. So the deeper question is not whether the Navy won that engagement. The Navy won. The deeper question is whether a nation can afford to keep winning at that price, and whether the weapon systems we built to dominate the last war are structurally suited to dominate the next one. If you are still watching this, you already understand that the real cost of war is never the headline number. You understand that capability and affordability are two separate questions, and that the most dangerous phrase in defense procurement is "it worked." We do not dramatize engagements and call it analysis. We take the actual engineering, the actual doctrine, and the actual numbers, and we show you what they mean at the level where decisions are made, wars are won, and the future is already being written. The USS Carney, hull designation DDG-64, was commissioned on April 13, 1996. She was built at Bath Iron Works in Bath, Maine, the same yard that has been constructing American warships since 1890. She belongs to the Flight I configuration of the Arleigh Burke-class, the most prolifically produced surface combatant class in the world, with 73 hulls delivered to the U.S. Navy as of 2024 and more under construction. Critics, and there have been many, called the Arleigh Burke design philosophically obsolete before the first hull was even laid. The charge was that building large, expensive, multi-mission destroyers in an era of precision-guided missiles was the naval equivalent of fielding cavalry divisions in 1942. When a single anti-ship missile can kill a ship that costs $2.1 billion to build, the argument went, the ship itself becomes a liability. That argument is wrong. But it is wrong in a specific, technically interesting way. The Carney is built around the AN/SPY-1D radar and the AEGIS Combat System, a computational architecture that, when it was first deployed in 1983 aboard the USS Ticonderoga, represented the most advanced air defense network ever placed on a moving platform. The SPY-1D is a phased array system, meaning it has no physically rotating dish. It uses electronically steered beams to track over 100 targets simultaneously within a detection envelope that extends to approximately 200 nautical miles for high-altitude aircraft and scales down based on target altitude and radar cross-section. The system processes over 1 million computations per second in its tracking loops alone. It does not need to rotate toward a threat. It is already watching. Run the numbers on what AEGIS actually costs to defeat, and the critic's argument starts to collapse. A nation attempting to saturate an AEGIS-equipped ship must simultaneously place enough fast, radar-distinct targets into the engagement envelope to exhaust the ship's vertical launch cells, 90 cells on a Flight I Burke, each capable of holding 1 or 2 missiles depending on configuration. To force a magazine depletion, an adversary needs to generate more valid contacts than the ship carries rounds. That requires coordination, terminal guidance, and volume that very few actors on Earth could sustain in 2023. The Houthis were not attempting magazine depletion that October night. They were doing something more strategically elegant. Do the math with me. 19 drones, 4 cruise missiles, 23 total contacts. The Carney likely expended between 4 and 8 standard missiles, possibly supplemented by 20mm phalanx CI West rounds at closer ranges. Even at the high end, 8 SM-2 rounds at an average unit cost of $550,000 represents $4.4 million in ordnance. The cruise missile intercepts may have required SM-2 ER variants at higher cost. Against that, the Houthi procurement costs for 19 Shahed-type drones, or their domestically designated Samad variants, sits at roughly $380,000 to $570,000 total. The exchange ratio on that single engagement approaches 8-to-1 at the conservative end. Against China's plan, the Carney's AEGIS suite still holds a generational advantage. China's HHQ-16 Naval Air Defense System, fielded on Type 52D destroyers, offers a comparable phased array but with a single engagement track capacity estimated by ONI at roughly 40% of AEGIS throughput in a dense simultaneous threat environment. The Carney can think faster, shoot faster, and geometrically manage more simultaneous engagements than any peer naval platform currently deployed in the Pacific. But speed and throughput are not the limiting factor on October 19, 2023. The limiting factor is something far more stubborn. The limiting factor is cost, and cost cannot be engineered away with a software update. The AEGIS system can kill almost anything in the sky. Almost everything it kills costs more to kill than the target cost to build. That asymmetry, that particular engineering cruelty, is not a flaw in the Carney's design. It is a structural feature of the era she was designed to operate in. The SM-2 was built to kill Soviet backfire bombers and shipwreck anti-ship missiles, platforms that cost the Soviet Union $25 million and $12 million respectively to manufacture. When your interceptor costs $500,000 and your target costs $12 million, the exchange ratio runs in your favor by a factor of 24. The weapon makes economic sense. A $20,000 drone changes every variable in that equation. The Carney's magazine holds finite rounds. The Houthi drone production line does not. In November and December 2023, U.S. destroyers in the Red Sea conducted over 100 separate intercept events across multiple ships. The USS Mason, the USS Thomas Hudner, the USS Gravely all logged combat engagements. The collective ordnance expenditure is classified, but open source analysis from the Center for Strategic and Budgetary Assessments estimates the U.S. spent upward of $1 billion defending commercial shipping lanes against a force whose entire annual defense budget is approximately $160 million. So how do you solve a problem that firepower alone cannot fix? The answer is not a better missile. The answer is architecture. What the U.S. Navy learned in the Red Sea, and what the fleet had been preparing for in classified doctrine since at least 2019 under the Distributed Maritime Operations concept, is that the future of naval defense is not a single ship with a deep magazine. It is a layered, networked, geometrically distributed kill chain where every node contributes and no single node carries the full burden. The Carney is not the answer. Carney is one instrument in an orchestra that most analysts and almost all adversaries have not fully heard play at full volume. The kill chain for a drone swarm engagement in 2023 looks like this, and the geometry matters at the outer edge, approximately 200 nautical miles. U.S. Navy E-2D Hawkeye aircraft, each carrying the AN/AP-9 radar with a detection range of 350 nautical miles, are already tracking the launch sites. At 100 miles, the AEGIS ships are building their track files. At 40 miles, SM-2 and SM-6 missiles are available for engagement. At 10 miles, evolved Sea Sparrow missiles take over with a unit cost of $1.5 million, but a target destruction probability exceeding 90% against slow, low-flying threats. And at under 1 mile, the Phalanx CIWS, a 20mm Gatling system firing 4,500 rounds per minute, handles leakers. The cost per phalanx round is approximately $30 per round. Against a $20,000 drone, that exchange ratio finally runs in America's favor. Now consider what the adversary sees from their position. Imagine you are a Houthi targeting cell commander, somewhere in the hills above Hodeidah, watching the tracking feeds from your Iranian-supplied radar nodes. You have launched 19 drones. You watch them disappear from your screen one by one, not chaotically, but in a precise order that tells you something terrifying. The Americans are not panicking. They are sorting. They are triaging. They are engaging the cruise missiles first, then the largest radar cross-section drones, then working methodically down to the smallest. The targeting sequence they observe is not the behavior of a crew scrambling to survive. It is the behavior of a system executing a pre-loaded decision tree at machine speed. The drones vanish from the display in 11 minutes and 43 seconds. Not one reaches within 10 nautical miles of the Carney's hull. There is no gap in the coverage. There is no seam they can exploit. And they have spent $380,000 to learn that the seam does not exist. Not tonight, not against this geometry. The metaphor that best captures what AEGIS distributed maritime operations actually represents is not a wall. A wall has edges. It is a sphere. Every node in the network contributes to a spherical coverage volume, and the sphere has no preferred axis of attack. A single ship defending itself is a cylinder, attackable from the flanks, the top, the seams between radar update cycles. A network formation of 3 to 4 AEGIS platforms sharing track data via CUC, cooperative engagement capability, a data link that allows one ship's radar to cue another ship's missile before that second ship's own radar has even detected the target, creates an interlocking sphere of fire that has no geometric edge an adversary can probe without entering the engagement envelope of a different weapon. Run one final calculation. The SM-6 missile, the newest interceptor in the Burke's arsenal, carries a unit cost of approximately $4.3 million. It is faster than the SM-2, with the top speed exceeding Mach 3.5, and it carries a dual-mode seeker capable of terminal active radar homing, meaning it can independently find and destroy a target without continuous guidance from the ship. But the SM-6 also carries an anti-surface capability. It can be fired at ships, at ground targets, and other missiles in flight. One weapon, 3 mission sets. The cost per kill math changes entirely when a single $4.3 million interceptor can be assigned to a $6 million cruise missile rather than a $20,000 drone. The system, not the ship, not the missile, but the integrated layered geometrically coherent system is what closes the cost gap. Not fully, not permanently, but enough. His name is not important to the story, and that is precisely why it matters. He is 20 years old, from Salina, Kansas, population 46,000, median household income $52,000, the kind of town that has sent young men to sea for 6 generations without ever appearing in a think tank report about naval readiness. He is a fire controlman 3rd class aboard the Carney. His rate, his Navy job, the thing he was trained to do, is to operate and maintain the weapons control systems that translate a radar track file into a missile in the air. On October 19, 2023, at 21:47 local time, he is standing at a console in the Combat Information Center, 12 hours into a 16-hour watch rotation, running on 4 hours of sleep and coffee that went cold an hour ago. The CIC is not loud. That is the first thing civilians always get wrong. When the weapons are firing, the CIC is quiet. The noise is outside, the compressed gas of the VLS cell firing, the booster ignition, the supersonic crack of the missile climbing. Inside the CIC, people are speaking in single words and short confirmations. Track. Commit. Birds away. His hands at this moment are doing something most people could not do at their best. Fully rested with nothing at stake, they are executing a targeting sequence with sub-second timing while the ship rolls 4 degrees port, then 4 degrees starboard under his feet, and the deck vibrates with the low concussive shudder of another VLS launch. He has trained for this 200 times in simulation. He has never done it live until tonight. He does not miss, not once, not on a single track. When the engagement is complete and the last contact disappears from the display, he does not cheer. He checks his console for the next threat queue, finds it empty, and exhales once, slowly. He is 20 years old. He just defended a $2.1 billion warship and the crew of 281 people aboard her with a sequence of correct decisions made under live combat stress in under 12 minutes. He is not unusual in the United States Navy. That is the fact. This is not a cost problem. This is a vocabulary problem. When analysts write that the USS Carney spent $4.3 million to destroy $380,000 worth of drones, they are applying the correct arithmetic to the wrong equation. They are measuring the cost of the weapon. They are not measuring the cost of the message. What the Carney transmitted to every adversary radar screen and satellite feed watching the Red Sea on October 19, 2023 was not $4.3 million worth of ordnance. It was a proof of concept with a value measured in deterrence, not dollars. Every commercial ship that transited the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in the following 72 hours did so because of what the Carney demonstrated that night. The shipping insurance market. A market that had already added $600,000 in war risk premiums to single transit policies did not collapse further because the math of interdiction had been publicly recalculated by a fire controlman from Salina, Kansas. The Houthi fatal miscalculation was not tactical. It was dimensional. They calculated the financial exchange ratio correctly. They were right that $20,000 drones fired against $500,000 interceptors creates an unsustainable cost curve for the defender. That equation holds. What they did not calculate, what they structurally could not calculate from within their own strategic framework, was that the United States Navy does not fight individual engagements. It fights time horizons. America's true asymmetric advantage in the Red Sea in 2023 was not the SM-2 or the AEGIS radar or the failings. It was the industrial and doctrinal infrastructure to absorb a cost imbalance in the short term, adapt the weapons mix in the medium term, and eliminate the cost asymmetry entirely in the long term, while simultaneously denying the adversary the ability to escalate at any layer of the kill chain. The Navy already has the answer in development. The SM-6 at $4.3 million will share the magazine with directed energy weapons, the ANCQ-3 laser weapon system, and future high-energy laser systems that can kill a drone-class target for the cost of 59 cents of electricity per engagement. The not $4.3 million, not $20,000, 59 cents. The Navy solved the right equation. It simply chose a longer variable. A nation that can afford to wait always wins the auction. Return to October 19, 2023, 2147, the Red Sea, 100 nautical miles northwest of Yemen. The USS Carney is running at combat speed through 8-foot swells. The contacts have appeared. The engagement has begun. You know everything now that you did not know when this began. The $4.3 million was not waste, it was tuition. The United States Navy paid $4.3 million that night to write a tactical doctrine in live fire, to confirm in actual combat conditions which weapons work, which geometries hold, which layers of the kill chain close against a drone swarm, and precisely where the cost curve must be corrected. Every number from that engagement fed back into procurement decisions, magazine management protocols, and the accelerated development timeline for directed energy systems that will make the next Carney engagement cost 59 cents per kill rather than $550,000. The sailors aboard that ship, 281 of them, young, precise, underpaid by any civilian standard, and absolutely extraordinary by every military one, made that learning possible. We will be here every time the Navy does something that appears expensive and illogical from the outside, and we will show you the engineering underneath it until it makes complete sense. Dismissed.